Okay, I think we're ready to start. So welcome to the 10th B'nai Yeshurun Zoom cooking class. Tonight, we will be making pizza bagel, mushroom barley soup, fried rice, and key lime pie. And for the very first time, Tova Cohen and I will share the Zoom cooking responsibilities, working in tandem, but from our individual kitchens, which are separated by 1.14 miles. How will we do it? As usual, we tip our hats to our creative Zoom master, Dr. Chad Cohen, for his diligence, his direction, and his hard work. Pizza bagels have been a great favorite at the synagogue for Shabbat kiddushes and lunches. Our mantra at the B'nai Yeshurun, or at the B'nai Yeshurun kitchen, is never run out of food. Thus, we often are left with extra bagels, which we freeze when they're still fresh. To avoid wasting food, we decided to use these bagels to make pizza bagel. But first, I'd like to give you a little brief history of the pizza bagel. There's a controversy between the East Coast and the West Coast of who invented the pizza bagel. Richard Katz of Katz's Bagels in Chelsea, Massachusetts, said that his dad invented pizza bagel in the early 1970s. In 1974, Bruce Teitman, then a high school student, said that he invented them at the Western Bagel in North Woodland Hills, California. But the claim, I believe, that has the most reputable and validity is that of Anthony de Moro. He states he invented the pizza bagel in 1959 at Amster Bagel in South Euclid, Ohio. And indeed, in 1970, he registered a copyright for them with the United States government. It just so happens that Mr. DeMauro lived on Farland Road in University Heights, Ohio. And it also so happens that from 1970 to 1974, I was his Cleveland Press paperboy. I remember he lived in a white house with a front porch, and his tips, though, were few and far between. But it all feels so bashert that we have embraced the pizza bagel at B'nai Yeshurun, and I have a personal relationship and personal connection to the inventor. Tova, could you please hand the bagels over to me?
Oh, yes, Murray, I've got them right here for you.
Why, thank you, Tova. Oh, they look very nice. Okay. So I see Tova's taken two large bagels and cut them in half. It's amazing how she got those over to me. So we're going to start out with our basic pizza bagel formula. And we're going to take some of our pizza sauce, which you can find just about anywhere, and slather it on. We do everything very generously. That's our key. You get some of these commercial pizza bagels and they're like, they don't hardly put anything on. We go big time. So here we are, just getting it all together. Now, sometimes we take the pizza bagel and we can take some mushrooms and put them on top of the sauce. So let's put a few mushrooms on this one. And we can also, sometimes we use a little bit of olives. So we'll put some on this. And then we take the cheese. This is mozzarella cheese purchased at Costco, nice kosher mozzarella cheese. And we put a goodly amount on top of our pizza bagel. And just in case I didn't have enough, I have another bowl, so I got some here because we don't want to skimp on anything. And then we take a little oregano. Generally, we use dried oregano, but since I had some fresh from the garden, I just decided to put a little fresh oregano on these. Okay. So we're going to take these, I'm going to put them on a cookie sheet in just a little bit, and we'll see how they're done. We put them in at about 350 for about, I'd say about 10 minutes, but you can gauge on your own oven. You know, there's one other thing I wanted to tell you about bagel. Nobody knows the plural of bagel. Is it bagel or bagels? In Yiddish, when you talk about two of these delicacies, you say zwei bagel. It's not, there's no plural in Yiddish like that. But in English, you say two bagels. So why do we say bagels in English? Well, when a word becomes Anglicized or whatever, then it takes on the rules of the English language. So the rules prevail, and instead of, when you have more than one bagel, then you call them bagels, even though a lot of us still call it bagel. All right, are there any questions on this so far? You can unmute yourself if you have a question. What a bunch of wonderful students. This is amazing, truly amazing.
Okay, Murray, okay.
Oh,
Who invented the everything bagel?
The everything, I think that was President Trump, but I'm not sure.
Okay, just wanted to check in.
Yeah, okay, I'm not positive about that. Okay, so next, while I'll get these into the oven, but next we're going to talk about the mushroom barley soup. This is also a favorite Shabbat lunches at the synagogue. And I made a video to demonstrate it, and as always, you can find the recipe on our website or in the chat that we have going today. So Chad, if you want to put up the video, we can show them mushroom barley soup.
Mushroom barley soup. I must have made mushroom barley soup over 50 times at the synagogue. And many people have asked me for the recipe. I probably never really used a recipe per se, but I have one down for you to see as a guide. The recipe, or the soup itself, came from my wife Beva, who used to make it all the time. And probably the biggest key to the soup is that you cook it for a long, long time. So I'm going to go through the steps in making mushroom barley soup. And you can then make your own and improvise as you wish. The soup, of course, is vegetarian and vegan, and it's wonderful on a cold day and pretty good on a hot day too. One of the first ingredients I use is dried mushrooms. Now, I have a hard time finding dried mushrooms, especially kosher dried mushrooms. And the only place I usually can get it is at Unger's. And Unger's at this time of year is a place that I will not go in because of COVID-19. So, well, look what I have here, a food dehydrator. Why do I have a food dehydrator? Well, I have one because I use dried mushrooms, and I have a hard time finding them, especially kosher dried mushrooms, and especially this time of year with COVID-19. So I took 8 ounces of regular mushroom. These were, of course, sliced mushrooms, and I put them in the food dehydrator, and this is my result. I've made the soup many times without the dried mushrooms because of time and accessibility and cost, and it turns out fine anyways. I also use fresh sliced mushrooms and fresh Bella mushrooms, which I usually buy whole then slice. Generally, I use carrots which I chop up into little round discs, but I happen to have some of these carrots and they're going to go bad soon, so I use them instead. That's what I mean by improvising. We have about 2 or 3 celery sticks chopped up here also. Then we also use barley, and most barleys are kosher, so you don't have to buy a kosher barley. And then we use the Manischewitz lima bean with barley soup mix. Now, when I first started doing this, we used to use Goodman's soup mix, and you could buy that probably about 20 years ago at Unger's for about 87 cents. This now costs almost $2 a sleeve. Each sleeve says that you need 8 cups of water, which is 64 ounces, or if you use 2 sleeves, that's 128 ounces of water. So I will now get the water. The pot is now filled with 128 ounces of water, and we will proceed with adding our ingredients. While the water starts to boil, I will remove the end of my soup mix. I take out the seasoning pack, and we'll do the same on the other sleeve. I shake the seasoning pack to get all the seasoning down to one side, so then when I snip it off, I can then dump it into the water. I placed one seasoning pack in. Get all the stuff out of there. And the other seasoning pack. Let's splash myself a little. And then we will mix it. It is now all mixed up as the water heats up. I will then take the canned mushrooms, which I have not shown you to this point, and dump them in. I do not drain them, I just take the juice and everything with them. Next, I add the carrots and the celery. Next, I'll add the dried mushrooms and the rest of the soup sleeves. And it makes really no difference what order you add them in. Note there's lima beans in the soup mix, and you can cook these for 14 hours and those lima beans will never totally soften up. Now comes some of the mushrooms. And a little stir for good measure. Okay, we added some more mushrooms, and just for the fun of it, I like to just leave some of the mushroom tops whole. It's very pleasing to me. Then we take a little bit more barley here, and we add that maybe about half the thing. And that'll expand. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're going to bring this all to a boil. Kind of high in the pot, but not too bad. It'll be all right. So we'll be bringing it to a boil in just a little bit. Now the soup is boiling. So we're going to turn it down and let it simmer for the next several hours, probably about 6 or 7. So in the meantime, I'll do other things. And of course, while it's simmering, cover it, but allow some of the steam to escape. This is how the mushroom barley soup looks after about 4.5 hours of cooking. And this is how it looks in the bowl.
Can't hear you.
Murray, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, wasn't that exciting? I was speechless for a minute. It was so exciting. Anyways, trying to video yourself is not so easy. So I'm starting the GoFundMe fund to help me get lessons in self-video. So if you want to just send me some money, I'll take it. Okay. Is there any questions about this? Anybody have any comments, questions, whatever? Okay. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy to do.
There's a couple
Okay.
questions in the chat.
What?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions.
Questions
One
in the
was,
chat.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
why dehydrated mushrooms? What's special about them versus just going fresh all the way?
You know, that was just, it's just a variation. And you know, you could use a lot of different kinds of mushrooms too. The more the merrier. But that was just one of the things. And I think it gives it a little different flavor. I was looking up dehydrated mushrooms, kind of give it a meaty flavor almost. When I was researching this a little. So that's as much as I can tell you.
And Lynn asked, what happened to Goodman's?
I don't know. They just stopped making it. I think they went out of business. There's a special seasoning I used to use. It was called Spritz, and I use it when I smoke fish and everything else. And I couldn't find it. I have a couple jars of it that are like half filled, and I have the ingredients. So when I try to imitate it, but you know, like everything else, it goes out of business. And
Someone's concerned about salt intake, and they want to know how much sodium is there in one of the soup packets.
You know what? I really don't know. I'd have to look at it. I'll try to check. I have a soup packet around, but I would say that most soup is fairly high in sodium.
680 milligrams.
Per serving,
Yeah, that's
that's probably quite a bit, I would think. But soup, yeah, it's a little difficult. I don't add any salt to the soup, but those packets do have quite a bit of sodium in them.
If you would like to avoid using the packet because of the salt, what spices would you recommend adding in lieu of the packet?
You know what? Let me, I'd have to get back to you on that off the top of my head. I don't know, but the packet's like not totally a miracle thing. You know, I could look at it and let you know. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It's Michelle, right?
Yeah, of Michelle and Ed.
Okay. I won't tell Ed. I'll just tell you. All right. And we can maybe put it on our whatever, add it to the recipe. Maybe we'll do that for anybody else who's curious. It's a good question. Okay, anything else? Chad, anything? All right. Well, so again, I'm gonna work on my my videos. You know, it's hard to talk and film and think at the same time. So what can you do? So now I'm going to turn this over to my friend and my colleague and the extremely talented and innovative cook, Tova Cohen. So take it away, Tova.
Thank you, Murray. That soup is delicious. I've had it as many times as you've made it. I've probably had it quite a few times, and it is good in all kinds of weather. And it never tastes salty to me. I know it's got the sodium in it. And I can't wait for those pizza bagels to be ready. But I am going to make fried rice. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it. The earliest record of fried rice is in the Sui dynasty, 589 to 618 CE. And this was in the city of Yangzhou in the eastern Yingzhou province of China. So fried rice is believed to have started as a way of reusing leftovers. So who are we to argue with something that's lasted over 1,400 years? In my own case, my mom often made chicken with rice, with carrots in it, and served with corn for Shabbat dinner. So we often had leftovers, and that's when sometimes during the week we would have fried rice. My mom would prepare all the ingredients. My brother would cook them in a wok, and we would all eat the fried rice. When you make the fried rice at home, you control the ingredients so you can make it healthier. You can use less sodium, you can use less oil, and you can use up your leftovers. Prepping is what takes a little bit of time, but if you have all of the ingredients ready and set to go, it's pretty quick cooking it. So the key is just having everything set, and it's not a horrible prep, but there are some things you've got to do. So here's the great thing about fried rice. It uses up your leftovers, and it's great leftover, so you can have it more than once. Okay, we're going to go over to the stove now. So is it better with the light on, Chad? No.
No, I would
Okay.
say no. Too
All
glary.
right. So I just want to show you a few of the ingredients before I start cooking it. The base, what we start with, is the combination of onions, celery, and carrots. I put them on a plate together because they're going to cook together so I can throw them in. But this is sort of, it's a flavor base. And in French, it's called mirepoix. And in New Orleans, it's known as the Holy Trinity. So a lot of different cuisines use this to begin their cooking, whether it's a soup, fried rice, whatever, but it adds a lot of flavor. Don't be scared of the onions. You can use less if you're not an onion lover, but the onions actually caramelize some and they add a sweetness to the dish. I cook my eggs separately so that it doesn't get soggy. So I just cooked it in a frying pan, just kind of made like a little pancake, and then what I do is I just take my spatula and just kind of quickly just sort of break it apart. I would have done this before, but I just wanted to see. It was just basically like a scrambled egg that I allowed to cook into a pancake. Okay, so now that's set to go. So I've got my wok, and this is a Calphalon wok. I happen to like using it a lot of. There's so many different woks. Some of them use season, and you can use whatever you have. So I've got it on medium to medium high, and I actually just start by spraying it with a little bit of Mazola spray. This, like Murray's mushroom barley soup, is not an exact recipe. You can throw in whatever you want. You can throw in as much of what you want and leave out what you don't like. So because it is a recipe for this class, I assigned quantities, but you can do your own quantities. So we're gonna let this cook for a few minutes. And basically just sort of stir fry it. You can start seeing the onions kind of become translucent and then become a little more opaque. So we're just going to let this cook and brown, and then dropping pieces on the floor. Don't worry about that. It's just like in the restaurant, except I have to clean my own floor. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to add is the mushrooms. You can use any kind of mushroom. I have 3/4 of a cup written down, but this is probably twice that because I like mushrooms. And these are baby bella mushrooms that I use because that's what I like. But again, use whatever you like. It's good to cook the rice ahead and just sort of let it cool and sort of, it doesn't really harden, but you don't want to have like a slushy rice. You want it to be liquid free so that when you add it, it's going to make your fried rice the right texture, the right proportions, and not too wet.
Tova, for people who don't have a regular, who don't have a wok, can they use a regular fry pan?
I think you could use a frying pan. You wouldn't use nonstick because you're using high heat. The nice thing about the wok is its shape. You can see even with its shape, you know, things kind of jump out. But if you've got a frying pan that you want to use, again, the key is just keep stirring so that you don't really burn anything. But I think you could do it fine.
Do you have a favorite onion that you use with this recipe?
Just use regular cooking onions. It's not necessary to use sweet onions when you're cooking. I've said this in another class as well because onions caramelize and sweet onions do not become sweeter when you cook them. Actually, I think regular cooking onions, I just buy a bag of them and that's what I use. So I just chopped up a small one and that's what's in here. So you can see the mushrooms are kind of letting off some of their liquid, which is good. And we're just going to let it cook a little bit until some of that liquid is gone. Okay, I'm going to add some of my other vegetables. These are snow peas. No, these are snap peas, rather. You can use snow peas. I've taken the strings off of them and I've cut them into smaller pieces. I've got some leftover asparagus I'm going to throw in, some grilled asparagus. And I like a little broccoli. I actually use frozen broccoli because you just thought you don't have to cook it. I'm going to add some corn. This is, if you have fresh corn, you can cut it off the cob. If you don't, you can use frozen corn. I add a few peas. Okay, and then we're going to add, I have a little bit of this, the chicken consomme, a little bit of it and a little bit of water. If you're making it, you know, meat and you've got chicken stock, you can use that. If you've got leftover chicken and rice like we used to have, you can use whatever, whatever the chicken juice is left in there. But this is good. It just adds a little bit of flavoring and a little bit of moisture. It adds a little bit of salt too. So, okay.
Tova, for a frying pan, did you say do not use a nonstick pan, use a regular pan?
I said do not use a nonstick pan. There's actually someone at the door knocking, Jan. I said do not use a nonstick pan because we're cooking it on pretty high heat and you can't do that with nonstick pans.
Do you want me to get the door for you?
And this guy's got a package in my door. I have no idea. Okay, so now I'm just going to keep cooking. So now I'm going to add my rice, which I just left out. I cooked it earlier today. We got a package. Okay.
That wasn't,
Address, so the guy dropped it off.
Oh, okay.
That's
All right. So we've added.
that wasn't the health department, was it?
No, I was hoping it was pizza bagels, but I don't know what it is. Okay, so now I am adding chicken. These are chicken breasts that were left over that I had just grilled a few days ago. And I'm going to add the egg. And I'm going to give this all a stir. I add walnuts because that's what my mom used to do. And maybe it's because my mom baked with walnuts and we always had walnuts, but it adds such a nice flavor. You can see the colors of this so far. But with nuts, you always want to toast them because it brings out the flavor. And I just do this in my toaster oven, but you got to watch them so that they don't burn. So now I'm going to add the soy sauce, and I just added, it says a 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons. I start off with 3 and see how I like it. At this point, I'm going to throw the nuts in too. And I think we need a little more. I'm going to add a little more of the soy sauce. Now Faith sent me a beautiful picture. She made her version mixed with my version of fried rice earlier, and it was beautiful. She puts cabbage in hers, and she adds a little bit of sesame oil to the oil in the beginning. So, you know, you can be as creative as you want. You can just use up whatever you have in the house. But it's just delicious. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop the cooking. So I'm going to just turn this off and you would serve it. All right, so I'm going to go back to the other camera. Okay, so we always like to eat, put some crunchy rice noodles on top. Sometimes we add the chili garlic sauce, which makes it spicy. At home, we always ate it with applesauce, so I always serve applesauce with it. And of course, you gotta use chopsticks. So my husband just does not enjoy eating fried rice unless he's got chopsticks. So it's great to have these on hand. Okay, so that's fried rice. Are there any questions?
Can you get takeout?
Curbside? What? Wait, but the applesauce, it's quite unusual. It's like, how did the applesauce come about?
No, I have it. We'll eat it on a plate and then just put the applesauce on the side. It just goes beautifully. I don't know why. And I just buy the unsweetened. So you can try it. You know, applesauce kind of goes with everything. In fact, I used to know someone who ate it with everything, but that's just our thing. So that's what we do. All right, so that's fried rice. Other questions? Yeah.
Tova, does the constant stirring eliminate the sticking that I've found sometimes happens?
Yes, it's, you know, the key to that is, well, the Calphalon is sort of non-sticky, but if you've got a layer of oil, a little bit of oil or the spray, and you keep stirring. A little bit sticks on the bottom, but not major. And because it's fried rice and it looks the way it looks, you know, you can switch back to the stove cam for a minute, Chad, so they can see it again. It's just this mixture. That even if it's, see, this really didn't stick much, but even if it sticks, say you pick it up and put it on the plate, it doesn't affect the aesthetic. Okay? So that's it. It's really easy and it's really delicious, and I hope you guys make it. Are there any other questions? All right, so we're gonna go on to key lime pie, which is a dairy dessert the way I've made it. Actually, there are some of the ingredients I use. I've seen them at Whole Foods, non-dairy, but I've never used them or made them that way, so I don't know how it works, but just so you know. But so we filmed it earlier, and we can show that now. I'm going to make key lime pie. Key limes probably arrived in the Keys in the 1500s with the Spanish. They have a more tart, aromatic flavor than the Persian limes that we find in our grocery stores. Key lime pie is the official pie of Florida, and traditionally it contains lime juice, sweetened condensed milk, and egg yolk. The pie is light in color, sometimes yellow from the juice and the yolk. And if you're ever served a piece that's green, you can be sure it's got food coloring in it. The first time I ever heard of key lime pie was when I was in college. My college roommate, who was originally from Akron, but whose family had moved to Florida, decided that she was going to make key lime pie. I don't remember exactly what the ingredients were, but what I fully remember is that we had a problem. The pie did not congeal. We kept checking it and waiting, and it never congealed. So it was a sloshy mess. I don't even remember tasting it. And that was my first experience with it. If you've been to restaurants in the Keys, in Florida, in the South, even here, so many places serve key lime pie, and most of those places will tell you that you have to try the key lime pie. It's the best key lime pie you've ever had. But I've never really been a big fan up until now. So who made the first key lime pie? Nobody really knows for sure because it was never documented. There's ongoing controversies as to its origin. Some think that sponge fishermen around Key West, who were at sea for a very long time, were the first to make the pie. Rations were meager on their boats, but with some sugar, eggs, canned milk, soda crackers, and limes, they had a tasty pie. Others believe that in the 1890s, a woman known simply as Aunt Sally created the pie. She worked as the cook for William Curry, known as Rich Bill, a ship salvager in Key West and Florida's first millionaire. He built a lavish mansion for his family in 1855 that is still being used today as the Curry Mansion Inn, where they still use Aunt Sally's key lime pie recipe. It was not until the 1930s that the first recipes were written down. There was no fresh milk in the Keys until the arrival of tank trucks when the Overseas Highway was built in the 1930s. Until then, cooks in the Keys had to rely on canned sweetened condensed milk, which was invented by Gail Borden Jr., a man, not a woman, in 1856. In 1931, the Borden Condensed Milk Company in New York City created a recipe for magic lemon cream pie. Some believe that recipe made its way to Florida in the 30s and 40s, where lemons were swapped for key limes. Others think that Borden created the recipe, a riff on their magic lemon cream pie, to sell more sweetened condensed milk. So the recipe that I'm going to make is a recipe that our daughter Jessica made for us. It does not have any egg or egg yolk in it, which I think is why I like it, because desserts made with lemon or lime that have eggs in it, for some reason I can taste the egg and it's not a pleasant taste for me. So I've never really liked key lime pie before Jessica made it, but now I've been converted. I gave you two recipes. One is for key lime pie and the other one says small key lime pie. They're basically the same recipe. The larger one uses a 10-inch crust and has 2 8-ounce containers of Cool Whip in it. Everything else is the same. And the smaller one uses an 8-inch crust and just has 1 container of Cool Whip in it. The procedure is exactly the same. So, Henley, are you ready? Let's make the pie. We're going to start with having our crust ready, which is a store-bought graham cracker crust. And again, I'm making the small one, so this is the 8-inch. And here's another trick that Jessica taught me. You all may know this, but I was not aware. Save this plastic container that was inside, and I'll show you later what you'll use it for. Okay, so we have our crust. We'll set it aside. And we're going to start with our Borden sweetened condensed milk. And I use the fat-free in this recipe. So we're going to put that into our mixing bowl. This is actually the ingredient that makes the pie, particularly the ones made with eggs, makes it very smooth and creamy and silky. This pie, again, does not have eggs in it and is not baked, which is another plus, particularly on these hot days, because you use your freezer. You don't have to bake it. You don't have to turn on your oven. So we're going to add to this a half a cup of lime juice. That's about 3 or 4 limes. It's best to keep your limes on the counter before you make this, not all the time, but when in preparation for juicing them. Or if you take them right out of the fridge and microwave them for 20 seconds, not more. You're not cooking them, you're just warming them up, because a warm lime will release more juice than a cold one. So again, half a cup, this is about 3 or 4 limes. Also, after you juice your limes, save a couple of the shells so that when this pie is prepared and frozen, when you take it out of the freezer and you cut a slice, you will take your zester and zest a little bit of lime on each slice. So it gives you a little sprinkle of color, and it also identifies what's in the pie, which is lime juice. All right, so I've got this big one. So we're going to add the lime juice to the sweetened condensed milk, and you're just going to stir it up. Right now, it's sort of juice on top, sweetened condensed milk on the bottom. So we're just going to keep stirring it until everything is incorporated and it's very smooth and silky. Okay, does not take very long. So you can see it's sort of got the consistency of batter. It looks like batter too in color. All right, now we're going to take 1 container of the Cool Whip. I used the light. And we're going to add that. So again, this is the smaller pie. It only has 1 8-ounce container. The larger one has 2. And they both have the same amount of lime juice, but they both taste pretty delicious and pretty limey. So for some reason, the same amount of lime juice works well in either the smaller or the larger pie. Get that last bit of Cool Whip off the top. Okay, so now we're just going to, I let that Cool Whip sit on my counter so it's thawed. If you forget to do it, and you can just leave it set out for maybe 10 minutes. It'll still have some frozen little sections in it, but as you stir it up, they thaw pretty quickly. So it's not a problem. Don't microwave it to thaw because I think it'll change the texture of the Cool Whip. Okay, so now it's all mixed, and you can see it's pretty light. There's no green in it. It maybe has a slight yellow cast, but mostly it's white. No egg yolks. And then we're going to just pour this into our pie crust. And we're going to smooth the top. We're going to put this in the freezer. So the way it looks when you put it in is the way it's going to freeze and the way it's going to look when you take it out. So just kind of make the top pretty. The best spatula. So when Jessica made this for us, this is the one she made, the smaller one. But then I found a recipe that was the same thing with more Cool Whip, and I made that one not knowing that wasn't exactly how she made it, but they're both wonderful. Okay, so remember I told you to save this plastic? Well, this makes an excellent cover. Since we're putting this in the freezer, you have to lift the foil a little bit and fit it in. Don't worry if it gets a little bit of the Cool Whip on it, which it does, because when you take it off, it'll be perfect. Okay. So that's the pie, ready to go. And I'm just going to put it in the freezer. And you need to have it in there for at least a couple of hours. I take it out in slice pieces. I just slice it frozen. If you like it a little thawed, let it sit out a little bit, but it slices fine frozen and it tastes delicious, almost like ice cream. And then I just put it back in the freezer and keep it. Every time we want some, we just take out a piece and slice it. So that's it. Hope you guys are successful. Henley, hope yours came out good. Okay. All right, so I made a large and a small so you could see the difference. And really the difference is if you want a taller, thicker piece, make the large, or if you're feeding more people, otherwise make the small. But that's it. Any questions? Okay.
Yes, I had a question. Can you use whipped cream instead of Cool Whip? Tova?
I'm sure you can. This recipe doesn't make it that way, so I've never made it that way. But you probably could search, and I'm sure the traditional ones are made with whipped cream. Okay, any more questions? All right, so back to Murray.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say that I've had that pie, and it's fantastic. It is like eating ice cream. Well, here are the pizza bagels. I finished them all up, and I want Tova to taste them to see if they're any good. So I'm going to pass them over to you, Tova, okay?
Okay.
So here they come.
Wow, those are gorgeous, and woo, they're hot. So can't wait to eat these later. Thank you, Murray.
Yeah, this was really fun cooking with you and sharing things long distance. I don't know how we did it. All right, well, this pretty much concludes the cooking class today till August 27th. We're going to take a little bit of a break after doing these 10 sessions. And our goals have been to share with you some of the recipes that we use in the kitchen at B'nai Yeshurun, to give you some relatively few ingredient recipes that you could make with common and readily available ingredients, and maybe a little bit to entertain you during these difficult days. We'd like to thank some of our cooks from the past, Hetty Milgram, Rachel Schwartz, Leah Eisenberg, Shira Polikoff, Mary Berkowitz, and of course, Tova Cohen. Tova has helped not only with her tremendous kitchen acumen, but she's been instrumental in putting this all together. Also, I want to again thank Chad for his countless hours of getting the Zoom and putting the productions together. We really couldn't have done it without him. So we hope that you've learned a little. We appreciate always your questions and feedback. And thank you for helping to make this a fun and rewarding project for all of us. So
Thank you, Maury.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tova.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for all the cooks. And I'll be over to clean up in 20 minutes.
And I want to thank Murray for all his hard work to put this together.
good.
Thanks, Schmoot.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you, Maury.
Malky.
Thank you all.
All right, well, thanks everybody for coming. A lot of our regulars, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Thanks for great recipes. Thanks for all of your hard work, guys.
okay. Oh, you know, I thought of one thing with the, if you don't want so much sodium with those packets, then don't use the little seasoning mix in it, or just use less of the seasoning mix, and you won't have so much sodium for the mushroom barley soup.
Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you.
So you could try some Mrs. Dash's stuff or something instead.
Tova, is it the same amount of condensed milk for the small pie?
Yes, the lime juice and sweetened condensed milk is the same amount for the small pie as it states on the recipes. The only thing that changes is the size of the pie crust and the amount of the Cool Whip.
And there was also, how did you actually get the lime juice? Did you use a squeezer or
Yeah.
or use a juicer?
Juicer.
I have a juicer. I did not use it. My daughter has one of the squeeze things that she swears by. I have this little EXO juicer. The top comes off, and I use that for, you know, not huge amounts, but whatever works for you. I also have this, which is wonderful too. You can hold half of your lime and you work that around. I usually do it over a strainer so it catches, particularly with lemon juice. The limes don't have seeds, but if you don't want pulp, then you can use this too. But whatever method works for you is fine. And again, if the limes are room temperature or a little warmer, you know, you'll get the maximum amount of juice out of them.
Would it be bad to have pulp in it? I mean, would that?
Well, it's more of a texture thing. You know, for this, I wouldn't put pulp in it. No, I would just want the straight juice. But if you don't find little pieces of lime in there, then yeah, go ahead. There's no right and wrong. You do it the way it pleases you. And the only way to know that is to try it, and then you'll know.
Have you ever, or what do you think of like that lime juice that's like bottled?
Never. No, that was one of the first deal breakers when Murray and I started cooking in the kitchen. I do not use bottled lemon or bottled lime, ever. So, there's
Right.
nothing like fresh citrus.
At the synagogue, we have 2 juicers.
As a result,
One for dairy, and one for meat.
right. So, and we make things at the
Sorry, I
shul.
was trying to spotlight you and I turned off your video by mistake and I can't turn it back on.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
Well, there you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hit the wrong one.
So those things are fake, pre-squeezed juice we can't use.
Yeah. They really are inferior. It's in taste. I'm all for making things easy. I'm all for, being thrifty, but there's just no comparison in taste, in my opinion. So no, I would not use those, but it's up to you.
And plus, when we work in the kitchen, we have someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Using the juicer is a good job to give them, so and they feel like they're really productive. So it's really fills a need.
The time filler.
Good answer. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
We'll see you in August, end of August, with some high holiday treats, I guess.
I did find some music that actually is called Key Lime Pie by Kenny Chesney. It's got some videos with it. So I'm just putting this on to play us out. But you guys can all click off and go do your other things. But if you want to listen to a little music on your way out, it's our pleasure.
Thank you, Murray. Well done.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Hey guys, welcome to Croutons Beach Bar. My name's Amy. I'll be taking care of you today.
Hey, Amy, what's going on? How you doing? We just came in for a couple drinks and a little after dinner, man.
All right, we've got some great key lime pie today.
Ooh, that sounds good. Take a drink and some pie.
Big straw hat, banana drink. I can't remember what it is I'm thinking. My key lime pie. Ocean breeze, tire swing, coconut fall if you shake that thing. And my key lime pie. Not too tart, not too sweet. My baby loves to watch me eat her key lime pie, her key lime pie. Tall green tree, yellow bird, bikini bottom and a tie-dye shirt. And my key lime pie. Big white sail, red sunset, lobster tail, and don't forget my key lime pie. Six string, 10 shots of cruising rum. Hey, I like it a lot with my key lime pie. A tortola, a full moon, shining down on a blue lagoon. And my key lime pie. Not too tart, not too sweet. My baby loves to watch me eat her key lime pie, her key lime pie. got Ginger and Mary Ann cooking up a real good tan, and my key lime pie. Key lime pie, 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 key lime pie.
All right. Tropical dreams, everybody. Take care.